Welcome to the Wandering Road, a place where the unseen moves all around us. The stories you'll hear aren't just whispered legends. They're shadows that cling, footsteps that follow, and whispers that never fade. Every turn pulls you closer to the unknown, and once you've heard what waits here, the night will never feel the same again.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Wandering Road podcast. I'm your host Chris, alongside my co-host Dean, and back again for the third episode in a row. I think we can't get rid of you. We can't get rid of you. Get out of here.
I am parasitic officially. It's awesome.
Go get. We have with us. Get out of here. We have the host of Southern Demonology, Mr. J.
Yes, the illustrious, the awesome, the magnanimous.
Are we supposed to be impressed?
You should be. You should be bowing and scraping if you are not already.
I think of you as a Southern darling, honestly. You're just
Southern darling.
You're just
I can wear my plantation dress. I don't mind whatsoever.
Okay, I just pictured that.
Imagine hair sprouting everywhere.
Oh, God.
Just calling for your husband. Emmett! Emmett! Ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling. Like ringing the bell. Like ding-a-ling-a-ling, come get it.
Oh, God.
I'm never going
So
to.
that's how we're going to start, huh?
Yeah.
Yes, this is late at night when we're recording. Yes, we are all tired, so that hopefully will explain something, but probably not everything.
Yeah, we're supposed to talk about God and the concept of other gods. But let me put it frame it formally. Today's topic from the previous episode, Dean mentioned the concept. Well, he brought up the commandment, thou shalt not have any other gods before me. And that kind of sparked something and was like, does that mean there are other gods? What does that really mean? Is it trying to say don't worship fake stuff like this bottle of water? Don't worship this statue over here or this picture of my dog? Is that what it means? Or is it insinuating that there are other deities out there? And in the Old Testament,
Spoiler, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or is he saying like, nah, man, it's just me. Screw those other guys.
I'm going to drop my thought that should probably be worked up in a podcast. I'm just going to drop it up front. My inclination towards this whole concept is somebody in some church or some location, hundreds of years ago or thousands of years ago, decided to try to wipe out any bleed over or spillage into other religions that was creeping into Christianity. And they just we have to nix this.
No, we're talking about Judaism. Right now. Commandment starts with Judaism, but
not starting Christianity, but same concept, right? It's just we have to nip this in the bud now, right? They're trying to get rid of other bleed overs of other religions. And the reason I brought up Christianity was because I was thinking of paganism slipping into Christianity. But
I know I was just being a dick.
No, you're right. I should have realized what I was saying about that. But that's just kind of where I'm leaning towards. And by the way, I wanted to bring this up last time. My favorite skit of all time, or little religious skit, is Mel Brooks coming down from the mountain with the 15 behold the 15 commandments. 10 commandments. And the reason why I think that is so relevant and timely for our conversation is because humans, I think if there was ever the real word of God, like a real God that really gave direction to humans, we would just immediately fuck it up. We would just immediately mess it up and there'd be no coming back from it. And my favorite other example in real life is first there were the Judaism, commandments, like the Old Testament and the Torah as a set of rules for mankind. And then there had to be a new covenant, and the new covenant was Christianity in the New Testament. And then according to Muslims, that still wasn't good, and that wasn't right. When mankind still wasn't getting it right, so God spoke to Muhammad in the cave, and word for word exactly spelled out in the Quran what is supposed to be followed. And so can you imagine how frustrating it would be if you were God, like trying to help humanity? Like they just keep fucking it up. They keep dropping and breaking the tablets to like get this thing rolling right.
Well, I mean, if you, God, I mean, just focus on Judaism. You would have different prophets in different ages come forth, deliver the word of God, and no one would listen, and they would have to keep coming. New prophets would have to keep coming up and saying the same thing essentially over and over again. Or if you take it into Christianity, it already screwed up because it's thinking that we recognize the 10 commandment, that's the Decalogue, but there are 627 roles outlined in the Hebrew Bible that we neglect other than the 10. So
Is that like talking about like certain rules? Like, is it keeping certain meats away from dairy? Like that level of commandment?
oh yeah,
rule? Okay.
absolutely. What you can and cannot do on the Sabbath day,
Right.
what you can and cannot eat, and a lot of this is, glossed over because we say, oh, the Spirit of Christ, is the new reinterpretation of the law, blah, blah, blah. But
Yeah. Which, by the way, I want to ask real quick before we get into the multiple gods thing. I feel like JJ, this is another question for like just I don't have anyone else to ask this, and it would probably take months for me to actually do the research myself. But in traditional Christianity, like as it's taught, let's just say in all the major denominations, when Jesus, I remember hearing that like everyone knows Jesus in the story died on the cross and at one point ascended to heaven, right, for 3 days or returned in 3 days. Wasn't there a point that he descended into hell first to take up all the souls before rising? Or is that just something I heard from somebody that's just bullshit?
that's a later tradition that was developed. Yeah, I mean, you have to remember, like, from the date of the crucifixion to an actual written document, you're talking about a 70 to 90-year gap to when
Wow.
written accounts begin. Now, of course, there is a hypothetical Gospel K, which is kind of the prototype in which the 3 or 4, depending upon how you classify it, Gospels draw heavily upon, and you can see kind of just like in a language family, it's the pseudo language in which these things are describing in slightly different ways. But
Yeah, that's so interesting to me that like I don't know why, I don't know where I heard that growing up, but it was part of some kind of religious teaching in Christianity when I was coming up. And
Are
it's
you talking
something
about the
that
harrowing of hell?
I don't know. I just remember being taught that Jesus descended into hell first before going to heaven. And the reason being was that since there was a new testament and a new set of rules imparted to mankind, everybody before those rules was forgiven and their slates wiped clean and they were brought out of hell and hell was cleaned out because it was like the resetting of like, oh, now everybody who's alive from this point forward has an equal and fair chance of getting into heaven or going through Jesus. But before that, there was no Jesus. So like all of those
Yeah.
souls were forgiven.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not saying I ever believe it, but I'm just saying like I remember hearing that and I haven't heard it in a lot of mainstream Christianity over the years in conversation, and it just popped into my head recently. I'm like, oh, I remember that. Let me ask JJ about that. But that's interesting. I didn't know there were like there was a gap of written accounts versus the actual accounts, and some of that explaining for that. But isn't that interesting? Like flipping back to the many gods, you don't take any gods before the one God in Judeo Christianity. But it's kind of like a similar concept where it seems like people would be filling in the gaps of logical sense for like, oh, well, like, what happened to the souls who didn't have a chance to be saved through Jesus? Like if this, it's kind of seems like the people who came up with that story were trying to ration out logic to help answer questions that they were stuck on that made sense to them in the human, like as they were humans, but like they had no answers for. So I kind of think like you can parlay that into a conversation about the many gods, because the many gods existed before the idea of the one true God throughout human history and leading up to it. And it's like it seems like there was some kind of logical explanation that had to be imparted that, oh, well, if you're going to lean into it for one God, one true God, you're going to have to like give up all this other multi pluralistic version of other gods out there. So I don't know, that I'm just trying to drive the conversation, but that I just thought that was worth mentioning.
It is, and I'll throw in two more things. Talking about reinterpretations or God message. Let's not even get into Mormonism, because dear Lord, that would be a departure and a half right there. But two, if you're talking about people trying to axe out certain religions, then Mr. Chris's famous boy Julius Caesar is probably one of the most famous examples of that, as he rode around during his particular travels and wars and cutting down every Zoroastrian priest he could possibly find and burning every bit of their literature he can get his grubby little hands on. Very famous.
Religious historian versus world historian. Let's see how this goes.
Let's duke it out. Come on.
You working up to a climax there, buddy?
I don't think
There it is.
I don't think that was Caesar. Caesar didn't campaign in the East. The only time he campaigned in the East was against Pompey and his remnants during the civil wars. But for the most part, he was mainly in Spain and Gaul, which Zoroastrianism didn't touch. So you might be thinking of another emperor.
I think
Well, he wasn't even emperor. He was dictator for life. But prior to that, he was a consul and other numerous titles. So what time period are you talking? Because you got to remember that the name Caesar becomes the title for the emperors, which lasts until today in different variations, such as Kaiser, Tsar.
Not Caesar. You're right. Alexander the Great.
Alexander the Great. So you're about 300 years off track.
Oh yeah, which is very common, because the funny thing is that the Ethiopic Orthodox Church, that's where I got confused, because the Ethiopic Orthodox Church, there's tons of literature proclaiming Caesar to be the greatest Christian hero that ever lived, even though he came well before that. But you know,
really, Caesar?
Yeah, no, it was Alexander the Great again.
Yeah, Alexander the Great, because the same thing is in the Quran, specifically when it comes to kind of like end times literature, that Alexander the Great was the first and only. They call them Dulkarnain, and it's debated whether it was Cyrus the Great or Alexander the Great that actually fought back Yajuj and Majuj, which is Gog and Magog. So that's kind of like why he's so revered during that time period. But I'm not too familiar. Maybe later emperors within Rome, specifically the Eastern Roman Empire, when they clash with the Parthian Empire, when they clash with the Sassanid Empire, you might have that friction between Zoroastrianism, because by the time the Eastern Roman Empire comes about and you get to the time of Constantine, the empire does convert to Christianity. So maybe before the pre-Islamic spread, I wouldn't doubt there might have been some clashes between Christianity and Zoroastrianism in that aspect.
So what's the implication then? So maybe for someone listening who isn't familiar with the specific religions, but like Zoroastrianism, as we mentioned before, was like the harbinger, the precursor to the, just in layman's terms, like the most simplest way of saying it is like the good God versus the bad God. In the same vein as like we have in modern Christianity, like the God, our God, or like not our God, God versus the devil. But like Zoroastrianism, why would Alexander the Great want to wipe that out in the face of whatever? I mean, regardless of power control, like, I mean, was it just purely power control to kind of, because they were gaining power, or like what, or was he completely against that type of religion holding on and because he believed in the pantheon or something else. Or like a
It's
pantheon.
JJ, if you don't mind me answering, and you could probably
No,
supplement.
because I don't know the answer to that.
So when Alexander expanded, and I mean, even with his father Philip II, before his father died, he was going to be revered. There was like this ceremony. He was killed at the ceremony, but his likeness and figure was among the Olympian gods. So there, like that started that they viewed themselves as gods or demigods or godlike. So the claim for Alexander was that he wasn't the son of Philip, but he was the son of Zeus, which therefore made him a demigod. And when he goes throughout his conquests of the Persian Empire and the East, he goes to, I think, an oracle or a famous like temple within Egypt. He finds like the oasis or something like that, and they proclaim him Zeus Ammon, which is basically, like you are a god, basically. So anything that could trouble his hegemony and his established order would be weeded out. So if Zoroastrianism posed a problem, I could see him dealing with that very strongly and very swiftly. And you're talking about a person that had no qualms killing his own generals because there was a mutiny against, there were claims. So I think one of his generals, Parmenion, was one of his oldest generals and was his father's general. I don't know if it was him or there was a claim that he was part of a conspiracy to kill Alexander. He just got him killed just like that because their power and their control was much more important than anything else. JJ, if you want to speak to the Zoroastrian side, which you probably could, but from that perspective, Dean, it's pretty practical, it's pragmatic, but the concept that he believed himself to be a god. And quickly with Julius Caesar, he believed that his family were descendants of Venus, which the Greek is Aphrodite. So there's always some sort of divine connection when it comes to these people.
Can you imagine that conversation like between two random people, like just lower class people around? There's like one person trying to explain, no, it doesn't make sense. I've seen Alexander the Great. He said that like light beaming from him, like he's definitely the son of a god. And then someone chimes in, well, no, there doesn't matter if he's the son of a god. Like there's only one true ultimate god, and he has power and control over all the other gods. And I just imagine them like going back and forth, and that's just like the spin-off of like one pissed off guy goes over this way with his firmed up beliefs about one god, and then the other guy goes off about his pantheon idea, and like it just keeps spreading from there. Then we come back 3,500 years later, and we're sitting here in a podcast having a conversation about like the concept of many gods before one true god. Here we are.
Well,
I'm reading
let me frame the conversation like this. It's easy to think about when we're talking about a specific subject to only talk about that subject. But we have to remember that Judaism existed for a very long time. There are ancient versions of it. There's Second Temple Judaism version. I mean, there's a lot, but overall, it is still interconnected to the region in which it exists. So it very much was a part of the Near Eastern tapestry, and it had to exist amongst many other nations. And a sure way of getting shit upon even worse than what it did is to sit there and say that there are no other gods but all. So this is where this idea, because first in the Decalogue, we see thou shalt have no other gods before me, doesn't mean that thou shalt have no other gods. And you can further back this up by looking at Genesis 6, which talks about a lot of English translations will turned that into the angels. But it is the most puzzling, one of the most puzzling pieces of the Hebrew Bible that has spawned multiple pseudepigraphal and traditions based upon just a few verses. And it's because it's confusing. And any student of biblical Hebrew, when they read these lines, they get very confused very quickly because it doesn't say angels, it says B'nai Elohim, the sons of God. And that seems to indicate that it was other members of this divine pantheon who came down, and other
Like from
traditions,
God?
yeah. And like Enoch and Jubilees, Enoch especially interprets that to mean the watchers. It has spawned numerous different things.
Can I ask a
because
quick
it was
question?
so
Doesn't
vague.
doesn't that complicate that concept you just posited that has been concluded on by a lot of scholars, religious scholars? Doesn't that complicate Christianity in the sense that the only offspring God ever had was Jesus? I mean, I'm not trying to be a smartass. I'm just genuinely curious because it seems like there's kind of a conflict that needs to be addressed there, where if there is a concept where there are other offspring in the form of gods that sprung from
It's not
ultimate God.
So it's not literally meant to be offspring.
Okay.
It's like lesser. So I mean, it
Creations.
could mean sons, but it can also be easily explained through other literary traditions.
Okay. Okay, never
So
mind.
yeah,
Okay.
it doesn't really impact Christianity that much.
Okay. So it's a definition thing, not so much a concept thing. That makes sense. Yeah, I guess if it was like just create, like there's nothing stopping by definition like a god creating other beings on the level of like a god like being between humans and the penultimate god. But like it's interesting that there's not, is there more like explanation there in the holy texts or in religious texts
Nope,
that like talk about that?
there is not, which
Interesting.
has led to just more and more confusion. So
One phrase ruined it all.
Isn't
Man,
there
really
like a
did.
line? Isn't there like a line, or maybe it was mistranslated, made in our image?
Oh, in Genesis or something like that?
Yeah,
I remember
something
hearing
like
about
that.
that. That's what alien are like. I remember hearing that now on like Ancient Aliens. and
Oh
History Channel.
God, those.
Remember they like that was one of their favorite Genesis lines to pull out and be like made in our
Yeah.
image as a justification for aliens creating humans.
Aliens creating humans. Yeah.
all I've got to say is, if you are one of these individuals who believes in any of the batshit crazy theories of Graham Hancock or any of his offshoot pseudo archaeological quote unquote scholars, then you are, I hate to say it, one step above a flat earther because it's bullshit.
You just
He
lost
said
half
it.
our fan base, asshole.
He said it.
Way to go.
He said it.
Y'all can come at me all you want, but well, I understand the desire to want to believe,
Sure.
but if your batshit crazy ideals are not just repudiated, but the academic society even refuses just to acknowledge your existence, it's not because you have some secret truth that they're afraid to admit, or they're part of some conspiracy to keep out people from knowing what really, really happened. You might as well go back to proclaiming that you don't believe that the recent Artemis 2 missions were real because the Earth has a firmament.
Hey JJ, can I see that ring on your face?
See what?
Wow! You walked right into that one. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just fucking with you, man. I'm just kidding. You actually are an intelligent person who knows what he's talking about. So,
In theory.
but
No,
but seriously,
certain things.
the Artemis thing, like my favorite one, the favorite conspiracy theory I saw so far was or not theory, but like explanation for why it was faked, was somebody was pointing out that the camera that was taking the video of the 4 astronauts like spun away from them and then like focused on the Earth outside the porthole, and someone was like, "Well, who's the 5th person taking the video?" And in my mind, immediately, I'm like, a robot, like one of the thousands of robots that they have on their spaceship, plus anti-gravity spinning things around. Like, okay, sorry, that's just my little rant for the day.
Oh god.
I have seen so many people posting just stupid things about claiming that it's not, that any of the moon missions were not real. I shudder to think of the intelligence gap that humanity has.
And the embarrassment of like getting someone nowadays up in front of someone from like 2000 years ago who was even like uneducated by terms of like in terms of back then, and then having them go at it about like the earth being flat versus like being round or something. It's like, wait, don't you live 2000 years in the future? Like, and you say you go to a formal school. Oh, okay. Well, you still think the earth is flat, huh? Okay.
Didn't Hypatia get flayed for the heliocentric theory?
Galileo did, yes.
No, Hypatia was she was a philosopher, I think, in Alexandria.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah, and I think she might have like studied mathematics and astronomy and stuff like that. And
Did you say alopecia?
no, Hypatia, not alopecia.
Sorry,
We're not
I couldn't
talking about
resist.
oh god, what's her name? Whatever. I don't need Will Smith to come and smack me. But
Are you still looking for a cure for baldness, JJ? Is that why your ears perked up?
No, my body lost that war 30 years ago. I don't care anymore. I revel in my baldness.
Good man. But hey, real quick, so heliocentric, this just popped in my mind. This is a perfect place to ask in this venue of 2 learned men such as yourselves. But so heliocentric you could probably technically imply that heliocentric fits into the religious narrative of the Egyptians, with Ra, the sun god, as the center of creation, if I'm not mistaken. So would the flaying of somebody, or the punishment of somebody who concluded on the correct heliocentric concept of at least the solar system, would people who would have hurt them, or cast them out or flayed them, had that in mind, like, oh, this is demonesque with your ancient Egyptian links? Or would they probably, is like ancient Egyptian knowledge of Ra and stuff like so new to us that there was a gap in knowledge between what, like 5,000 years ago when that existed versus today? Or would they, like I said, would they have targeted because of that was like an evil concept that people knew about during that time period, where like, oh, we have to get away from that Egyptian stuff?
One, you're talking about, well, specifically with Hypatia, you're talking about fanaticism,
Okay.
Christian fanaticism in Alexandria at the time, and Hypatia was a woman, so not helping her case. Educated one as well. And you mentioned Galileo, JJ, just the concept of the earth not being the center of everything was just baffling to me, and that was the main issue.
Yeah, man, that makes sense. I just couldn't help but think about that, because isn't Egyptian religion technically a polytheistic religion?
Yes.
Oh, to its core, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But even though they had a hierarchical level of gods, I guess it would be in the same way as Zeus, right? Like Zeus was considered the god of gods, or the leader of gods, right? So I guess Ra would fit into that.
Well, technically, I think it's Osiris.
Osiris is the mother,
Yeah,
or the
I think-
birther, right? The birther
No,
of
that's
other
Isis.
gods. Isis. Okay, never mind.
No,
Dude, I don't fucking know it.
yeah,
Egyptians.
I'm really iffy on the closest I get to Egyptian mythology is the Mummy movies, and that's not. I just like him because he looks cool.
Yeah.
Never done a deep dive into Egyptian mythology, even though hieroglyphics look really cool, and I would like to read
Yeah.
They
them.
are cool. I've studied them some, not a ton, and it's certainly a lot more approachable than hieratic writing system, which is, oh my God, like Hebrew gets bad with Yod and Vav, because Yod is, very short and Vav is the longer one. And my God, hieratic is like most of them are straight lines, and it's just, oh God, it just hurts your eyes looking at it.
But I'm glad you brought up the Egyptian pantheon to segue into my question for JJ. Going back to our initial concept, apologies, we tend to derail a lot and have some side conversations, but I think it flows naturally just because that's who we are. So apologies about that.
Or rabbit holes fully. We love them.
Yes, that we do. But my question is the concept of you shall not have any other gods before me. We already had the discussion that within that time period, within the, Judaism, of course, there were tons of other religions around them. So if you were going to be a follower, they had to make it explicitly clear that this was the only one. There was no other. You can't, no Zeus, no Baal, no nothing. It's just this. But what I wanted to ask from, I would guess, a paranormal perspective or a spiritual perspective, because, we talk about demons a lot and the other side and preternatural beings and all this other stuff. There are people that practice modern day, like neo-paganism, Greco-Roman revival paganism, what is it, Norse paganism. There are people that make claims that they have had contact with those deities. For example, like Apollo, Hecate, Aphrodite, etc. For the sake of this discussion, because of the realm that we delve into, would it be kind of disingenuous to discredit those people all the while we're talking about demons and ghosts and other dimensions and possession and all that stuff? Doesn't that kind of tie into that? Now, I'm getting somewhere with this, I promise. What does that mean? Are those deities that they claim to be deities that they're following, are those truly gods? Are those preternatural beings that pretend to be gods? Are they demons trying to get attention? Like,
You just can't win.
What no, you can't. But what are your thoughts on that, JJ? I just wanted to hear your perspective because I've thought about this before, and it just like makes my head
I
spin.
mean, it's a very good question. I wish I had a pat answer to it, and I don't. I mean, from
Just your perspective, not anything like we don't have to reference any academics or anything, like just your perspective.
okay, because I can't tell you whether a certain belief ever existed. I will say, let's just take the Greek example with their pantheons. Even at the time of Socrates and Plato, those were more lip service than they were actual fervent belief. Now you did have philosophers running around and saying that there are no gods. This is, you believe in them solely at your own choice, blah, blah, blah. But I am not a final authority to be able to say that that deity X, or if I'm going to quote Tanya the Evil, Sanzai X, is a real thing or not. I have no bloody, there's no way I would be able to know. And even for the people that have those experiences, they do not know. They have belief in that, but from my perspective, but unless that, like from a Christian perspective, I would say those are entities, infernal entities posing as something else in order to worm its way into their life. Is that right? I can't give you a final, no one can give you a final answer. That's the thing. All of these things are built upon a set of rules that have been handed down, and no one can validate if those rules are in existent in reality or not. Just to claim that there is a spiritual realm takes a leap of faith. And then to posit that that spiritual realm was different than our own reality is also a leap of faith. And we have no direct evidence one way or the other. And humanity's been searching for that for as long as we've been able to, string a few words together.
I think you hit the nail on the head there with I liked how you added not just uncertainty about the nature of existence after in terms of religion, but the nature of reality or the reality on the other side. And the reason why I think that is so important, what you just said, is because it kind of goes back to what Chris was saying. My question to you guys as faithful individuals who believe in at least a portion of Christianity to be true. We sit here together, with all of this knowledge of human history that we have between the three of us. Chris with his multiple degrees in history, world history, JJ with his doctorate or high level degree of multiple religious, stuff. And it just, we enjoy that we enjoy this for the first time in human history to have people who have that level of knowledge in the same room. And that you could have a conversation with so many other people. I'm not saying it's the first time in history. I'm just saying modern, in a modern sense, the last few hundred years or whatever, couple hundred years, where this is something that is, this type of level of conversation is possible through many people. So my question to you guys is, knowing what you know about history and the knowledge that you have, and the concept that there could be other religions out there that are being tricked by the evil entities of your religion, Christianity, what would you do if you yourself popped up on the other side of existence? Like when we all go, when you go to the other side, you show up, let's just say hypothetically, you are the self you are now, and you have the same thought processes, interpretation. You don't have a tap into some divine knowledge or experience or whatever. It's just you on the other side, and you are presented with some deity that doesn't align with what you had believed in life. Would you stop and posture and listen to it and question, or would you immediately be like, absolutely not, I need to focus on, where's my deity? I don't want to talk to this deity that's presenting itself before me trying to tell me about the nature of existence. I want to talk to the deity I believed in this life. And so, because it's kind of similar in the same vein that you're talking about someone who would be presented with other gods of other pantheons of other religions.
I just thought I saw something stupid.
Please. I'm going off on a tangent, so stop me before I fucking keep going.
Are you thinking of the South Park that Mormonism is right?
Yeah, no. Dean, you were like, no, where's the deity I believe in? He's like, son of a bitch, hold on.
And then he switches.
Is that better?
I had the wrong filter on. I'm so sorry.
See, that's what I'm talking about. The filter.
Wait, hold on. He's He's talking to his assistants. His last name is this. This should be the right filter, but he's Catholic. What is going on?
Just show up a Shiva and put on an Irish accent. Oh, so you're here now, are you? And he's wearing
No, but I get what you mean. If that happened to me, I'll let JJ speak to this too. We'll get to the other side if there is. And it's, I don't know, I see Anubis or something, I'd be like,
oh,
okay, I guess I was wrong.
I guess I need to start pulling this boulder.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Which, by the way,
crappy though. Get weight against a feather. Come on, dude. Why don't you put your heart on there?
For me, I wouldn't have a problem. I like to be flexible in my thinking, and maybe I'm too flexible. That's what she said. But like, when I go to Japan, I have no problems praying to the local kami-sama there and giving honor to them.
Yeah.
Do I know if they exist? No, I don't, but it's just the way it is. And if you're presented with a higher level of reality and you can't deny it, then what else can you? I'm not going to be so intractable to assume that I am right, because even in life, I've never assumed that I am right.
Yeah.
I know what I think I know, but that doesn't mean shit.
Except
But
when you're
let's
coding.
let's confound it just a little bit further. I love the age that we're in, because we get to play with ideas of postmodernism. And this started off with Wittgenstein and Heidegger, and then kind of kept creeping up the line. But as I said in our last conversation, we are self-centered beings, and that's because we only have our existence that we know, that we have access to. And really, if you think about it, we are prevented from learning about anything outside of ourselves, just based upon language or acquisition of knowledge. Everything is built upon categories. If you see a man and woman walking down a beach, it's the concept of man, woman, walk, distance, beach, time, etc. And we can't know anything beyond that. So it's like we are self-centered beings looking through a cage of language and unable to perceive anything else based upon that.
And what I find fascinating, to add on to that, and just to clarify for people listening, I think it's not that we're forbidden or incapable of learning about things. I think it's the confirming the certainty of things that are learned that are outside of your own self. And the confirming part is going down the whole philosophical rabbit hole of how do I prove anything out of my own mind. It could very well be that I'm the only one in existence with some other deity, and that deity is making everything else around me happen, including it being in other people that I think are other people, and just pulling the strings to make it seem like they're actually like the same as me, another conscious, but in reality it's just me and a billion light years across in either direction, and that other deity. And that's like, fuck, dude, I can't think about that too much or my head will implode. But
Maxwell's demon.
yeah, exactly. But going back to the whole nature of reality, and there is only what we can be presented with in this life. If you transition that concept to the other side, which is becoming, it seems more and more likely that the myriad of different concepts and religions that have ever existed, that we're learning about every single day to depths that never have been before, have never been seen before by so many humans, or accessible by so many humans, because of the accumulation of knowledge in this time period. It seems extremely likely now that if you throw a dart at a wall with all the religions, you're probably not going to hit the one that's the right reality, unless there's a component like, the shape-shifting concept where, oh, there are general universal components that are transmissible through multiple religions, and doesn't really matter the context of the religion, it's some of the stories. And then I think that's the way you get religions like Baha, or is it Bahaism? I forget what it's called, where they take like different components of religion, the Baha religion, which is a real thing, by the way. It's relatively new, but it's a real religion. But just jumping back on the gods, no gods before the one God concept, it also seems like that's applicable too, to where like, well, there could be only one God that is the creator God, and that God is intended his or herself or itself to be followed without anything before that, which would imply that it cares, that God cares about that sort of thing. But then all of the other gods that possibly have existed in history, including the examples of Chris, like saying how someone might have been presented with the deity who popped before them into existence and not being able to confirm what that deity is, but it's claiming to be like Zeus or Ra or whatever. If that is a true thing too, then like it just seems like the god that exists in this reality above humans is the same concept as the dartboard thing, where if you throw a dart at a board with all of the names of the gods, including like the concept of one god, you're unlikely to hit the true nature of existence from just one dart throw. But you know what I'm saying, right? Like it's like there are so many points of view out there, including the multi-god perspective, that how do we narrow it down to figuring out the true nature? And then like JJ said, we just can't. But I mean, like it still has to be addressed, I feel like, in some kind of conversation to some degree, or else we're just like sweeping it under the rug.
Well, I mean, that's assuming that one can even recognize or understand truth with a capital T, which at least to a postmodernist way of thinking, you can't. Now, if you go back to, Greek philosophy, then yes, I mean, logic dictated, logic was the basis of reality. It defined exactly how things work. And that's not the case.
JJ, I got a question for you. Some people would consider, well, let me rephrase. This type of discussion, does it fall on the lines of like blasphemy?
I don't think so. It's honest and open discussion. Now, if I sit there and proclaim that there are no gods, if I was a staunch atheist and insisted that I knew, what my beliefs are, the only way forward, then maybe you can make that argument. But I mean, it really depends on how strong or how weak you are in faith. How much grayness you can tolerate. If you can't tolerate any, and you think that anything that doesn't fit your exact definition of right or wrong is, then you're going to be as you are.
Because I've overheard conversations where people feel bad for having this type of discussion, and they feel like
I don't understand.
I don't get it either. So I mean, I think it's honest discussion. You're not saying something outright, proclaiming that you know everything. To your point, it's just something that I wanted to just pick your brain about real quick.
No, man, it's a very fair question. Is it okay to question? And that's one of the things that really pissed me off growing up, because I would get involved with some of these evangelical groups, and they would make you feel bad for even having a moment of doubt. And I had a lot of doubt until my faith was firmed and became quiet instead of performative, I guess you could say. And there's no, the acquisition of knowledge is, I won't say it's never bad, but rarely is it bad.
I think it's only bad if you do it with malicious intent, to be honest. I mean, if you're using it to, I guess, downplay other people, what they believe in, make them feel, belittle them, or to even take advantage of people, then yeah. If you're using it for that type of activity, yeah, then that's could be considered
True.
negative. But no, yeah, I just wanted to pick your brain on that, because I've seen that quite a bit. I've seen a lot of people saying, well, you can't have that type of discussion, and it just gets frustrating, and you just pigeonhole yourself. And I think that line of thinking, personally, when you pigeonhole yourself like that, you just open yourself up for more doubt, because your foundation is built on sand. So like just discussing even discussing the concept of other gods exist would be terrifying for some, but it's like, for us, it's like, well, why did they say that? Is it insinuating this, or is it for a more practical reason? Like we're trying to get a better understanding of why certain things were written the way they were written and, you know, said for whatever particular reason.
I will say this: as the branches of knowledge have advanced, the one thing that we have determined over and over and over again is that rarely, if ever, are things simple. You know, just take the concept of eyes. You would think that, you know, eyes developed once and then that was it. No, no, no. Eyes have developed multiple times in different species in different capacities over and over and over again. It's not that easy of an idea to the same thing for even reality, like for space. If we think that space is a vacuum, but no, if you bring in quantum mechanics into it, then even empty space is going to have quantum foam, which is constantly being generated and annihilated all at the same time. Nothing is as simple as it seems. So if you're living your life by these black and white beliefs, then and you never look outside of that, you never question them, just as you said, Chris, it is a ultimate foundation of sand and it will swallow you up at one point or another.
I just was thinking about like something recently that I came across scientifically, this idea that it's a really dark and scary concept that we might be the only ones in reality in existence. Like, I mean, us, by us, I mean physical beings that have a higher level of awareness and intelligence capability and language capability. If it took on the longer end, say 3 billion years of the Earth's 4.5 billion year lifespan, if it took about 3 billion years from like molten rock to cooling to the components required to start forming single cell organisms or prokaryotes or whatever that went on to develop into multi-cell organisms, and then the things crawling out of the ocean and developing on land and sea and air and whatnot. If that took 3 billion years and the universe is only like 14, was it 14 or 15 billion years old as the best guess, current science, then it's kind of
13.8
scary.
billion.
Yeah, thank you. 13.3. So like it could very well be that we either missed the early inception of any other development before us in the universe, or not enough time has passed for other beings to like us to be evolved to this level. And if you apply that to like the religious perspective of reality, religion for so many people is infinite. I mean, in that sense, it almost seems like there has to be infinite levels of existence in order to explain the religious experiences that people have happened to have had in this short little blip on this planet. And so I think like the more I think about it, and this is just my personal thing, the conclusion that I've been drawing recently, like right now, and this could very well change later, is like I don't think this is the only universe that we live in, that we have ever lived in. It just seems drastically either we're so important to the other side that they are doing everything they can to help the good souls or the good people get to the proper side or the good side of eternity, or we don't really matter as much in this iteration or to whatever level of true reality on the other side, like the religious side or the spiritual side. And that either means that there are multiple iterations of possibilities to where like we could get things sorted out on our own over multiple iterations of existence, or we're just not that important. So I know that's a really kind of like either, well, it could be positive or negative, like dark or light in that concept, but like this is just so much to fucking untangle, man. It's such a complex, deep thing that I just think about for fucking hours, man. It's just crazy the ways you can go logically and hypothetically.
There's so many twists and turns and so many rabbit holes we could go down, so many caverns and paths like the mines of Moria. But gentlemen, I have enjoyed this conversation tonight. We can probably talk about this more at another time, but JJ, thank you once again for hopping on the show with us and having a fun conversation. And for our listeners, where can they find you?
You can go to southerndemonology.com and listen to episodes there, or on YouTube or Spotify. You can see video episodes of everything that we pump out. And we're also on all podcasting platforms.
You heard him, folks. Go check him out. He has some awesome stuff. And we hope you enjoyed tonight's episode. And let us know your thoughts. Or if you have any angry thoughts, direct them at JJ. He has a contact page on his website that will
And here's his address.
that will just go directly to his inbox. So yeah. Anyone that's upset by this episode, yeah, go yell at JJ. He's the theologian. He's the scholar.
God help us all.
God help us all. But all right, folks, I hope you enjoyed tonight's episode and hope you have a good one and tune in for the next episode.
Thanks, guys.
You've reached the end of tonight's journey on the Wandering Road. The show is written and produced by me, Chris, and my co-host, Dean. If you've got a scary story of your own, or if you'd like to join us as a guest, send your tale to twroadpodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to follow us on social media for more haunted fun. And if you enjoyed tonight's episode, please rate, review, and share the show. It helps keep the lantern burning for fellow travelers. Until next time, keep your eyes on the road and your mind in the shadows, because the wandering never ends.